Find out what's going on. Get involved. Change things from the inside. Make a difference. Take pride. Multicultural at its best. The Luisa Marshall Show. Coming up.
Today, all news simply the best. Get inspired how to cope with crisis. On the show, Melody Garcia. She's a life coach, a mentor, a speaker, a leader, a writer, and most of all, a mother to her two sons. Melody is also the CEO and founder of Luminary Coaching and Consulting and Life Unscripted. She migrated to the United States in 1986 from the Philippines. After 20 years in the corporate world, Melody focused mainly on her purpose and passion in 2018. She said the groundwork was back in 2013 with an event she put together titled One Night, One Voice, benefiting Typhoon Haiyan victims, impacting over 20,000 lives in the Philippines. Watch our Simply the Best interview with Melody live from her home in Florida under the required self-quarantine or shelter-in-place to stop the spread of COVID-19. All these coming up. We hope that all of you are inside your homes safe and sound. We are proud and happy to have on the show one of the most powerful speakers and influencers. She has represented the United States as a keynote speaker in Dubai, London, India, to name a few, and recently spoke at the Harvard University. She travels the world and shares the stage to speak with some of the world's greatest change makers, such as Les Brown. She also met with amazing world leaders and influencers, such as the Dalai Lama and the Princess of Morocco. Her wisdom, guidance, and presence move people to change and take actions that are truly inspirational. She has shared empowerment platforms in the United States of women with Michelle Obama, Jane Fonda, Tarana Burke, to name a few. Today, she lives in Florida with her two sons and helps others to cope during times of crisis. We are speaking with Melody Garcia from her Florida home with her two sons who are being good, staying home to help stop the spread of coronavirus.
Oh, wow. No, you're number one international best-selling author, multiple award-winning writer, and a speaker, and most of all, an influencer. How are you, Melody?
I am doing well under the circumstance of everything that's going on around the world. I cannot complain. I'm blessed every time we open our eyes. There's a saying that goes, every day above ground is good.
I'm sure you always have that happy app, your own Melody happy app.
Oh, I have. Well, what's the alternative, right?
Yes.
It goes down to this. I practice gratitude. Mm-hmm. Because if I was to give in to all the problems, there's a lot, right? There's a lot that's going on in all directions. So what can we be grateful for this moment? And usually it's the things we take for granted.
So many, huh? Mm-hmm. So many, Melody. It's just the world is going crazy right now. What do you do personally that is most important to you and your family to help stop the spread?
Well, definitely obey what the CDC guidelines are. In fact, it's been county by county here in the state of Florida. So there are some cities that are on what they call shelter in place, which is another term for a lockdown. But like the place that I'm at, where I live, it's not, which is outskirts of Orlando.
That's another term for lockdown?
Yeah, it's called shelter in place. In other words, stay home. It's basically... They're getting fancier with this terminology.
Yeah, it's the Melody happy app term.
It's like just say stay home or you get in trouble, but they call it shelter in place. They call it the lockdown, right? But to me, it's let's first be cognizant of obeying those rules, right? Who would have ever thought that in the year 2020 we're having to teach people how to wash their hands? Because
no. Isn't that crazy? Because I always do. It's like I always wash my hands.
there was a saying that we thought that in 2020 there would be flying cars. No, we're in an era where we're teaching people how to wash their hands properly. Back to the basic, right? Of even having to sing happy birthday 2 times just to make sure you follow the 20-second rule.
Yeah, I do it with a medley. Happy birthday and Auld Lang Syne.
Oh, just keep singing and then just go. Yeah, even though my town is not on lockdown, shelter in place, wherever they call it, is I've been very cognizant of not going out.
Good.
Other than it's the groceries. I did give my 2 sons a break yesterday of just saying, we're not in lockdown. Go visit your friends, but practice. Good that social distancing and just go get some fresh air, right? Fresh air, because we are still blessed in our area that that we are in a place that still respects that, not this people going stir crazy. But outside that, like my morning ritual personally is I start with a prayer and faith and just for God to protect all of us because we have work to get done out there. And at the same token is just paying attention. So a couple of the good practices, I get up at the crack of dawn if I have to get to the grocery store. I'm going to tell you that 17 years of Black Friday shopping has trained me for this particular moment.
You're one of them Black Friday shoppers.
I've become such an expert because of my sons. When they were growing up, they want that specific thing. But I got so good with the online Black Friday and store Black Friday. And I was telling my sons, I said, look, all those 17 years of your mother Black Friday shopping has proven the skill sets that's needed for grocery store shopping in this pandemic crisis.
That's so funny. Oh my God. There you go. I think I should get my Black Friday shopping app too. I'm not that big of a Black Friday shopper, but Melody, I am not aware of how big the Filipino communities in Florida. I haven't met them. You're actually probably the first Filipino from Florida that I've met. How are they coping up with the crisis, the Filipino community, and what do they do as a community to actually help to curb the spread?
So I've been watching some of their social media posts. So there's a pretty healthy community within Florida in different pockets, right? Orlando has a lot of them in different areas, and they're frontline staffs, and usually most of them are in the medical, the nurses.
Yeah.
Right. So my heart goes out to those friends. I've been reaching out, just being what they call the emotional equity of just really checking in on them, picking up the phone, not texting. How are you guys holding up? And the one thing I have to say with Filipinos is we thrive under crisis. We're happy regardless what's going on. We're probably the first ones to crack up jokes. I've been receiving a lot of comedic jokes and, just memes from Filipinos, like the tabo. They're like, why is everybody going crazy over toilet paper? We have tabo, we're good, right? And I was teasing my friends. I was like, I don't think the COVID-19 or coronavirus is what's going to do us in with the amount of MSG that we were all raised, like Aji Manamoto. I was like, in our system. I think we're preserved at this point. But there is a particular group I want to highlight. They've become part of my family because my family's scattered all over the world, and I left the Philippines when I was so young, back in 1986, right?
You were born in the Philippines.
Yes, Baguio City girl. Right?
Oh my gosh!
Baguio City.
Baguio.
Oh, there we go.
I love Baguio. That's our to-go place every summer.
I haven't been back since we left. So I was searching for the really good Filipino unit, like the Filipino culture unit. There's a group here that if you were to come visit, you would just love them. They're called Happy Noise, like Happy Pinoys, Happy Filipinos. They merged the name to Happy Noise.
I like that.
They're very
good. Happy Noise?
Yeah, Happy Noise.
Can I meet them sometime?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love because they get together and really celebrate family and culture. They're singing, it's not just, they just have a higher level of consciousness, awareness, and kababayan mentality that in times like this, they're already sending messages, who needs anything, I'm going to the grocery store, let me know, which family. And I just have full respect for the Happy Noise of Orlando.
Oh, happy noise, wherever you are.
We'll be back with more inspiration after this. Don't go away.
I read an article yesterday by Jeffrey Sachs. He's a professor and director of the Center of Sustainable Development of Columbia University. He said that Americans are suffering and dying because of Trump's administration failing to act quickly and decisively to prevent the virus spread. So what is your take on this? What do you say to that?
I definitely have my own opinions, and I know that, there's right now there's a political heat going on in the US. I mean, even just social media, people are pro-Trump, people are against Trump. There was there's enough sufficient warnings, just that showed up in January. And, the lack of accountability of certain levels is definitely there. I mean, it's not even just Trump. I look at the governor of Florida. He didn't shut down the beaches during spring break. So you had a large amount of gathering from young people that were all converging in the beaches, and the rest of us were screaming, shut it down. They haven't even shut down the state of Florida yet, right? So if you look at the systems and flaws and traveling still all across the U.S., we don't know what we don't know, and we can't control what we can't control. So I always send out the message that before we get into political debates, right? Because obviously, no, I'm not in agreement with how they're running, how they should have started shutting down. There were so many countries that took precedence, South Korea, where so advanced in really facing this head on, right? Even I was seeing a video from a friend of mine that lives in Dubai. They were sanitizing the streets. The sanitizer workers are out there in the middle of the night while everyone's sleeping, sanitizing all public areas, right? And the United States, which is a power, again, I'm like, why are we in this situation? Well, we all will say administration failures. But beyond the administration failures, let's look at what's happening in our community. We have hard-headed people not following social distancing, not following lockdown protocols, and still gathering in massive groups. So we can blame the administration to a certain degree, but it also comes down to self-accountability. Exactly. Right? Why are these people not listening to the rules that are out there?
Exactly. And that I don't understand. It's the same thing here in Vancouver.
Yeah, the world has already shifted, in so many directions. We are pushed into this isolated pods, I call it, of communities and living, but everyone's having to adjust because it doesn't matter when they say countries are going to open. The economic disaster backlash of having to equalize the gains, it's going to take a while before that even opens. What are the lessons to be learned? Pay attention. We are more interconnected than we think we are. No one was paying attention when China was suffering because everybody, I don't want to speak for the masses, but, that's the commonality of it's in China, and the desensitization when we started seeing 80,000 people, well, it's not us, right? Yes. And then I actually started consciously paying attention when I went, now it's in South Korea, now it's Asia. But the moment it jumped to Europe and Italy, I was like, this isn't good. The thing is, when it's a global pandemic, or when you start seeing that it's spreading, we need to start being more cognizant, as citizens with moral responsibilities, not to be paranoid and watch the news in every single way. But when you start seeing this and you start seeing countries take action on the same consistent invisible enemy as they have now termed this to be, then we need to pay attention and not go with our ego thinking, oh, we can handle that. I'm connected globally. So I was speaking to another good friend of mine who's stuck in Croatia, but at least her family's there, right? And she said that only on the smaller grocery stores, only one shopper is allowed.
Wow.
So as soon as they get out, then the next shopper goes in. On the bigger stores, it's only not more than a maximum of 6 people entering the store. When the 6 exits, then the next 6 comes in. Can you imagine the lines? I was like, oh my goodness. But they have to control, and they also have the lowest cases in the world.
That's why we have to learn from them. What is the most important advice you can give to anyone during this challenging time?
So a couple of things that I shared with that private group was this. Everybody's throwing this word pivot, which is basically to turn, to twist, to go with the flow. But I literally broke it down in increments for them. And I'm actually looking, let me see if I can remember. The first one, the letter P for pivot, because I broke down the acronyms into actual meanings, is people first, right? And especially with a lot of, all of a sudden everybody jumped online. You're seeing a lot of video lives and webinars and free stuff, and everybody's an expert right now, but they're pushing product. And I literally had to say, emotional equity, invest in those people's feelings, right? Because the last thing you want is products being pushed on your face. And we can tell who's hungry, we can tell who's desperate, because everybody's offering free things, which also gives me a range of why you're offering free that you never did before. So people first. The second one is you talked about the signs of influence. Are you an influencer? And I'm not talking about, being an Instagram influencer, #influence, because real influencers comes from relationships, right? That they have built, the character, integrity. So we talked about those things, and people will believe you when you're transparent about your journey, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I had to teach the viewers on again, emotional equity, right? The pivot. So it's people, influence, and it's the signs of influence based on true leadership principles, not influencer, not pretty pictures. Yes, letter V stands for value. Are you adding value in your content? Is your message out there, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, podcasting? Is it about value? Right? That people want to learn from you. People want to gravitate because what you're actually offering is something that not just empowers their lives, but so people have called me, you're so inspirational. And I actually said, inspiration is nice, but inspiration can also be found in a fortune cookie. What I am, my platform has always been on the transformational side. That if I can guide you and hold your hand and help transform your mindset, those limited beliefs, breaking down the barriers of dictations you grew up with, then when you start transforming, I said the impact that you have. So people, influence, value. O is opportunities. Right now, there's so many people around the world that have lost their primary source of income, their jobs, right? Luisa, just last week alone, 3.3 million Americans filed for unemployment checks in 1 week. 3.3, that tells you the economic disparity that exists in a great country when you have 3.3 million people in 1 week filing unemployment checks. And then I was on a private call with the Small Business Administration, because in the U.S. stimulus plan is all this emergency funding being released. It actually crashed the site because 40 million business owners logged into the site to try to find information or see if they qualify. I mean, this gives you a whole different picture of what's really happening. Right? So for me, what I teach them is seek opportunities. You're blessed with talents. So your primary source of income is on pause or you've lost it, right? What else do you have under your tool belt that can help monetize or sustain your family during this given time? And there's a lot of there. So in my coaching, I guide them through that, right? And then T, the very part is transparency, right? And trustworthiness.
Important.
I watched, there's a quote from one of my mentors, Dr. Steve Maraboli. He's like the #1 behavioral scientist in the world, right? But he always says, I hear what people do, which means it's actions over words, right? I listen to what people do, not what they say. And when you put those pivot principles right, on that. And tell you what, because I've been so busy where there's some people out there going, I'm bored. I'm like, oh my gosh, I crawl to bed every night the last 3.5 weeks because I have now been pulled in so many different high-level mastermind due to my background in crisis management and all of that. It's just, they're like, okay, we need your idea, your opinion, your solution. What solutions can you come up with? That I am blessed, right, at the same time that I'm positioned to be able to help serve, first and foremost. At this particular game where everybody else is not everybody, but there's a good number around the world that are trying to figure out, how do we even get food on the table? It's being solutions driven, learning how to pray first thing in the morning or meditate, whatever you practice, and getting yourself centered, knowing in my particular case, we serve a God that has not changed from the beginning. And in my journey where he has taken me, this is the same God that parted the Red Sea. This is the same God that I always tell my coaching clients, and even when I speak on stages, I don't hold back on sharing my faith journey, my life journey, faith walk as I call it. I said, come on, God does not call on the qualified, he qualifies the called. What business did I have meeting the Dalai Lama? Right? What business did I have being selected to speak as a keynote at Harvard University? He keeps positioning me in so many different directions that I cannot refute and recognize where this is all coming from. Because once we really center each other on that truth, that irrefutable truth, that no matter what happens, we serve a God that comes through the 11th hour. And he has never failed us. People may have failed us, administration may have failed us, but we have such a bigger, higher God we serve, or whatever people believes in, universe. I always say that I pray to the God that created the universe, right? Is this, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, some of these things that are happening now are revelations. We cannot deny what's happening. I mean, locusts, earthquakes, volcano eruptions, a virus. I mean, it's been one after the other since the beginning of the year that we just literally have to say, use me. And that has been a platform. When you see that video, you'll probably cry because that's what started my journey that just opened up into this global space and so many different callings. Was the moment I released a prayer that says, help me help them and activate all the gifts you've given me to help me reach them. And that was in 2013 when I launched a small benefit concert. It was supposed to be small, called One Night, One Voice because of Typhoon Haiyan, because I sing too. Well, in 3 weeks, that grew into something much bigger than when I had anticipated, with no expenses, but everything sponsored that I didn't even look for, that ended up impacting over 20,000 lives directly, halfway around the world. And that's when I went, what was happening then? So when you play that video where God has led me, even UNICEF, I had no business. What I share from the international stage, I said, who would have thought that the person who doesn't like politics, me, God thought it was going to be funny to drop me in the middle of Capitol Hill. Now to meet with members of Senate and Congress in the US with my team UNICEF, to now negotiate on behalf of children's lives in 190 countries. Right? I said, so sometimes we get so caught up with the titles and the certificates and the college degrees and everything else.
Recognitions,
all this,
yeah.
Right? But in my journey, he has shown me over and over and over again this words, watch this. Watch what I can do if you just lean on faith. Watch where I position you. Watch all those adversities you've been through are just foundations so that you can help serve, because people are looking for answers, right? That if you show transparently what happened to you, but you show, pointing back to kingdom glory, where I took you, then the impossibility is defied. So to your original question, am I worried? No, not too much, because I also know that those who believe, those who have faith, we're all called to serve in our different capacities. You're so talented. Your family's blessed with musical capabilities. right? That those are all forms of service, right? That we've been blessed with. You've overcome. I'm pretty sure one of these days I'll interview you for my show, Luisa.
Oh my God!
Get ready for that, because because there's a podcast called Life Unscripted, and I've interviewed some of the world's big names. We're actually launching our TV show through Binge Network itself. It launches in a couple weeks. I want you on it.
Amazing! Congratulations!
Thank you.
I'm following everything, every inspiration step of the way of Melody Garcia. So, my last question to you.
Yes.
What's the first thing that you want to do after all this craziness?
What
is the very first thing?
First of all, big gratitude, and really hit it at a next higher level to really go out there, because this pause that we're all in gave me a great opportunity to observe where we can drive solutions, to observe where we can serve, to observe even people of who I can impact and help grow. So the next big thing, because we'll see how everything works out. I'm supposed to be speaking in Germany in June, representing the U.S. and the speakers nation, where there's like 50 nations converging, right? And I applied, and they selected me to represent the U.S. We'll see if that happens. So that might be the next big thing. If not, then I will certainly keep you posted.
Wow, it's really hard, but anyway, Melody, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I appreciate your time.
You are so amazing. I'm truly inspired, and I wish you the best. Okay, girl. And yes, and you have a great evening tonight. Hug your children and your whole entire family, your friends. But your friends, I'll just tell them to stay put. Not yet. Just virtual hugs. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And what can I say to you? You're simply the best, Melody.
Welcome to Relive the Music, a brand new one-of-a-kind show that takes the audience through music history, trivia, and memories of the 50s and 60s.
We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock till broad daylight. Come on, sugar.
Is everybody following the rules? Let us not get infected, and let us not infect others. All the doctors, nurses, caregivers, paramedics, store clerks, hospital staff, and many others, you are simply the best. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Please don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Always be kind. Let's stop bullies and the spread of coronavirus. Stay home. Wash your hands. See you next week. Bye-bye.